Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, as today we're going to be talking about the Edmonton Oilers draft day and do a little bit of a preview coming into the free agency day. As not a lot of moves have gone on for the Edmonton Oilers, but a few has kind of commenced. Campbell just got bought out just an hour ago, me recording this video. You had Evander Kane being asked to waive his no movement clause. We moved up in the draft to have a first round pick to draft Sam O'Reilly. So lots of stuff to kind of go over and digest here for the Edmonton Oilers. So let's get right into this. But before we do, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. It'll be very much appreciated. I know I haven't talked a whole lot about the Oilers in a very long time. I'd even do last year's off season. As you guys know, I was taking a little bit of a break, so we're trying to get right back into the swing of things. I really didn't watch very much hockey over this past year, so please hold on to that. If I have a crazy hot take or whatever it may be, please let me know in the comment section below. Especially a lot of these prospects, I probably won't know very much about these past prospects just because I haven't done a whole lot of research on them. I did do a little bit of research on Sam O'Reilly, read up on some things about him, but not too much craziness has gone on, especially for the Oilers. Like, we've had some things kind of gone on already. We can kind of get into talking right about that for the Edmonton Oilers, which of course they bought out Jack Campbell, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit later on because that just happened today. We'll talk about that kind of in the preview of free agency day. So we got to get into talking about the draft day here for the Edmonton Oilers, which our first overall pick, which we didn't actually have, or not first overall, 32nd overall, but first round pick. We didn't originally have a first round pick here in Edmonton. We had to actually make a little bit of a trade to get that first round pick, where we sent our 2025 first round pick to Philly to grab this pick up. It seemed like the Edmonton Oilers were really high on Sam O'Reilly, which honestly, Sam O'Reilly looks like a pretty good player. He had 20 goals and 36 assists with the London Knights this past season, and they said that they valued Sam extremely high. We thought there was a probability he'd be a late first, said amateur scouting director Rick Precy. It was a time to make a move, and it was aggressive, yet we think Sam is worth it. He's a very defensive forward, can play a good playmaking game, and I think that's the biggest reason why they kind of went after a guy like Sam O'Reilly. Is he's a guy that's going to, bring in a little bit of that defensive prowess to the team, but he can also move the puck around and make some really nice passes. And that's kind of the biggest thing, right? Like, moments where he's not perfectly positioned and are rare. His endless work rate allows him to impact plays many can't. He checks the hands, ties up sticks, and torpedoes himself and opponents along the wall. So very physical guy, but he's also able to produce a pretty good amount of points. So we'll have to see how well he does with the London Knights, especially since, there's going to be a lot of guys that probably won't be playing with the London Knights this upcoming season, and he might have to take a bigger role. Somebody like an Easton Cowan might not be a guy that's going to be staying with the squad this upcoming season. I think even a guy like, Denver Barkey, when did he get drafted? Did he just he got drafted a year ago, so he still has one more year left with the London Knights, so they still have some guys that are going to be there. But losing a guy like Easton Cowan, who's one of their big point producers, one of the big power play guys, you got to be thinking, will Sam O'Reilly kind of take that step up and take a spot like that in that area? And then one of the other guys I do want to talk about, Emil Vinny, had some great stats. He won the bronze with Team Canada in the Lincoln Gretzky Cup. Just a great looking goalie. I think a guy that could be a potential great goalie. He was first among European goalies, had some pretty good stats. Wasn't like a terrific, of course, but pretty good for looking at, statistics for a young goalie that plays in the Finnish league, right? 892, 272 save percentage, put up a decent record. He won, like I said, the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, put up a great record there. I really like Vinny. I think he's a great kind of future goalie to add to our core that we already have. You have Rodrigue, of course. Skinner's already up on the main chart. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to continue doing here with the Edmonton Oilers, is to continue to draft and continue to do well. And it seems like every year we've been adding a new goalie. Like Nathaniel Day last year, we got Vinny this year. The year before that, we got Samuel Hansen. We got Oliver Rodrigue. Every year we've just been adding more and more to the goaltending, because sometimes you draft a goalie and that guy might not be of anything, you know what I mean? So I think, honestly, pretty good draft. The other guys, Clanenberg, big physical guy, not going to give you a lot of points. Albin Sundin, don't know much about him. He's an older player. but a guy that they want to give a chance out to, and then Dylan Weekly as well. Put up a decent amount of points in the Canadian Hockey League as well. So another guy that has given a lot of points to, I think it was he played in the OHL, I do believe, North Bay. I was like thinking of Battalion, but it wasn't coming out on my lips. It wasn't coming out. And then William Nickel as well, from the London Knights as well. So teammates with O'Reilly as well. So a lineup for another guy that kind of gets added into the core. So some decent draft picks. I think people were mostly giving them around a B, B minus. Now, I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on how the Oilers did in the draft. I think we did pretty good. Adding Sam O'Reilly, I think adds some more, depth later on in the future, especially in the center core. I think that'll help us a lot. He might be more of a winger more than anything, but a winger center, that helps us tremendously for the future of the team, and I think it's a pretty good pickup for the Edmonton Oilers coming towards the next few seasons. So let's move on towards, of course, I guess another thing I haven't brought up yet is Kenny Holland also has backed up from the Edmonton Oilers. So right now we have no GM. I think the guy that's kind of leading the team is Jeff Jackson. Probably the whole team is kind of leading the team around, which I think was kind of the biggest thing this year. Is I think we kind of got a little bit of a step back from Kenny Holland, but he just didn't take a full step back until now, where he's saying that he doesn't want to be the GM of the Edmonton Oilers anymore. We're going to take our time kind of getting a GM for this team, which is a good idea. We want to take our time. We want to get the right GM to help this team out, especially since we're going to be going into some pretty big years with Leon Draisaitl being a free agent, and not just that, also Connor McDavid is 2 years away from being a free agent as well, right? We have a lot of big contracts coming up that we have to deal with. So, those guys we need a good GM to be able to get those contracts done with both McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So now we'll kind of pivot towards what happened after the draft. What's the next step here for the Edmonton Oilers? Of course, one big thing I was hearing rumors about was Evander Kane. Evander Kane apparently was getting talked about with being waived his no movement clause, which honestly wouldn't be a bad idea to get rid of his atrocious contract. That's what I was hearing from, I think. I think it was confirmed that they do not waive their no movement clauses, what I was hearing, but they're reportedly being asked to move their no movement clause. That was coming up from Elliot Friedman. So I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be any movement. I think that's mainly why Jack Campbell has stayed on the team, and that's why we haven't seen that's why we got to see Jack Campbell get bought out, which he got bought out for his last 3 years of his contract, which saves us a pretty good amount, especially this year. We save about $3.9 million, and then after that, it does jump up a little bit more, but we do save a pretty good amount of savings this year, next year, and further on. Not tremendous, but with James Neal's coming off of the books next year as well, that will definitely help us big time as well. But back on Evander Kane, I know some people in Edmonton love Evander Kane. I think the teammates love Evander Kane as well. But for the price that we're paying him at and the way that he did in the playoffs, now he was very injured. He was injured throughout the season, and I think that was a big part of that storyline, that he just wasn't healthy. And throughout the regular season, you can just see that he is starting to decline a little bit in his game. And I think that's the biggest problem here with Evander Kane, is if he continues to kind of decline in his game and continue to not be able to follow up with the rest of them, that's not going to be a good look. And we need a goal scorer. And if Evander Kane's not going to be healthy, who are we going to have to kind of take in that goal scoring prowess? Is Holloway going to take a big step up this year? But is he going to be that big goal scoring guy that you need to be? Nuge is not your goal scoring guy. Is Zach Hyman going to put up another 50 goals this upcoming season, right? I don't think so. He got really lucky with a lot of those goals. He was a garbage picker, right? So is he going to have that same kind of production that he had last year? So I think going into this upcoming offseason, our biggest focus should be absolutely a goal scoring forward. I would like us to focus on goaltending, but I don't think we're going to get a goaltender. But I'm very happy that we were able to buy out Jack Campbell. I think buying out Jack Campbell helps us tremendously. We're heading into this upcoming free agency day with almost $13 million, but we still have a lot of big free agents to sign. There's still a lot to kind of talk about. Now, we've been hearing rumors that they're trying to get back in 3 to 4 kind of players to kind of come back into the Edmonton Oilers, which I will be live tomorrow, so do not worry. I will be talking a lot about the free agent moves that the Edmonton Oilers will be doing. I'll probably even make a separate video tomorrow as well, talking about all the moves that the Edmonton Oilers made. But I think the 4 players that you might most likely see is Henrique. Now, I've been hearing that he might be priced himself out and he might be walking in the free agency, which if he does, really, really, really big loss if we end up losing Adam Henrique. I think Henrique was terrific during the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. He was a really good contributor during the offseason, and I think he was a player that we absolutely need to keep. Now, if he prices himself out, that kind of sucks. Otherwise, I don't want to keep Corey Perry. I think other guys you bring back in is, of course, Connor Brown. If you could get Matthias Janmark back for a cheap contract, but I think it's guaranteed that you get back Janmark, Brown, and Henrique. Henrique is a little bit of a maybe, though. I think, in my opinion, he is kind of up in the air if we're really going to be able to get him back or not. But if you get Henrique back in the lineup, you got a left winger that you could play there with Janmark and Brown back. You got a Janmark and Brown. So all you really need to do is, of course, depends on Evander Kane and his injury, right? You need a right winger or a left winger that you can play either further up in the lineup, because Holloway, I think Holloway had a really good playoff run. He did very, very good, and I was very impressed with how he played, and I think he will continue to take big steps up, right? And he could be a decent little goal-scoring guy, but he's not going to be that big production guy that's going to get you 30 goals a season. He's going to be more of your 20, 50-point type of guy, 60 points type of guy, I think, with Dylan Holloway. And looking at free agency, I think one of my favorite guys that I think the Oilers should absolutely go after is Mr. Jeff Skinner, a guy that did have a little bit of an off season, but I still think could be a massive producer if we pick him up for a year or two. He just got bought out, so he's being paid pretty good from the Buffalo Sabres, like $2.4 million. It only affects 1.4 of the cap, but look at later on, 6.4. I don't think he's gonna mind taking a bit of a cheaper deal, because he's already been paid 2.4. We've seen that with a lot of players like an Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And especially here for the Oilers, we need to target players that have just recently got bought out. Like a Cam Atkinson, Nate Schmidt. I don't think a Nate Schmidt will fit very good on this defensive core. I think we're good defensively. But I think a guy like a Jeff Skinner would be perfect. A guy like Cam Atkinson, who's been on a little bit of the decline. So is Cam Atkinson really going to be a good option for you? Probably not. Now, in our dreams, Steven Stamkos would be an amazing pickup, just because the goal-scoring prowess of Steven Stamkos, the playoff experience of Steven Stamkos, the captaincy of Steven Stamkos would be a dream. Now, do I think we could even get Steven Stamkos? No, that's not even in our wildest dreams. I think, realistically, looking at how things kind of are, I think a player like a Mantha or a Duclair are probably more realistic for the Edmonton Oilers to pick up more than a Jeff Skinner or even a Tyler Toffoli or Steven Stamkos. Unfortunately, I think some of those guys will probably be ending up going to either American teams or going somewhere else to have a better chance. Now, with us just making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, I do feel like it is a good opportunity for us to maybe even pick up some of those guys. Maybe some of those guys will be like, hey, you just came off of almost winning the Stanley Cup. Maybe we go there and try to help them, maybe give myself another Stanley Cup, or go there and try to win my first. But I think big-time goal scorer wise, and if we lose Adam Henrique, I mean, that'll suck either way. But we definitely need like an extra center, I think, big time. I don't know who it would be. Probably not Elias Lindholm, because he'll price himself up. That's why I'm saying Adam Henrique is probably one of your best options to go after if you're trying to get a center back in the team, because you're looking down the list of centers. There's not a whole lot. There really is not a whole lot out there available for centers, unless you just say, okay, we're going to rely on, Ryan McLeod this upcoming season to be our main center, right? Or you get back in Sam Carrick, which I think would be a very good depth center to kind of keep alongside of the team, or even go for a Steven Lorentz. But if you're trying to get kind of a third-line center, Henrique would be perfect to keep on the team. I think is an absolute guy that we should try to keep on the team and try to resign. It depends on how much he is going to want, and I think that's kind of the biggest question here for the Edmonton Oilers, is how much is he going to want to kind of stay on the team. I think is a very, very big question, but a lot of big questions kind of coming in this offseason. I think, though, coming in, we need to focus on a big goal scorer. I think that'll help us out tremendously going into the playoffs. I think that was kind of our big kind of the reason why I don't think we did very good against the Panthers is because we couldn't finish. We couldn't finish goals. We couldn't finish our opportunities. And I think if we want to see some success, we got to get a good goal scorer who's going to be able to finish those opportunities, especially in high-pressure moments. That's why Steven Stamkos would be an absolute dream for the Edmonton Oilers, but Skinner would probably be more on the realistic side, or even Duclair or Anthony Mantha. Tell me guys in the comment section below what you guys think the Edmonton Oilers will do coming into this upcoming free agency day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Adios, amigos.